Shereen Jones here for Healthy Now, and I thought I would show you a quick little meatball dinner that I'm going to make tonight. I got it from this recipe that old school, yes, I know. I still cut recipes out of the paper. It's crazy. Zucchini turkey meatballs with green yogurt and saffron rice. Not a fan of saffron, so we're just gonna have plain rice. Don't have ground turkey meat, but I did have some frozen ground beef, so I'm going to use that. The green yogurt I can make with whatever I want. The base is jalapeno pepper to give it a little punch, and then I'm going to put some basil in with that and maybe some garlic. And but the star of the show is going to be the zucchini, which we're going to grate. Then you put a bunch of green onion, chopped green onion in it, some cilantro, some parsley, some chopped garlic, which I've already done here, and a half a cup of rice, which the recipe said to whiz in your food processor. And I'm like, okay, that is just way too much trouble. We're just gonna eat it. I don't mind if it's, the full grains of the cooked basmati rice. So we're gonna put the basmati rice in. We are going to put some garlic in. We are going to chop up some parsley. And if you've seen any of my videos before, I'm using the thin stems and the leaves. No picking off the leaves. That's way too much trouble. And the stems are delicious, and especially if you chop it up finely, it's just going to be a bunch of green in your meatballs along with your zucchini. So I'm going to chop that up. I'm going to chop up the some cilantro and some green onions to make about 1/3 cup. And the recipe calls for a cup of zucchini to 1 pound of the ground turkey or ground beef. In my case that I'm using, you could certainly use ground chicken. You could also use grated tofu. You might need a binder like an egg or some other replacement for the egg to help the meatballs hold together, but you could use the tofu as well. But going back to the zucchini, I am going to use more than a cup because I would like more veg with my meat. So we're gonna grate the zucchini, and I'm gonna get a good mound of grated zucchini. I'll probably do about 1.5 cups. I know, like I said, I wanted to do more than the cup. The problem with doing too much more is your zucchini is wet. It retains a lot of water. So if I veer too much out of the proportions that the chef in the recipe has given us, I might make my meatballs very, very wet. So there we go. There's a big mound. That's definitely more than 1 cup. We'll throw that into the bowl along with that. And then we will take our green onions, which I have rinsed and peeled off the, I'm just, nothing fancy here. Some small rounds, some not so small rounds. I'm gonna get the green part and the white part because I like both. The recipe said about 1/3 cup. That was probably not 1/3 cup, so I'm going to do a little bit more. So with the ground beef, I just wanted to show you, this is a frozen pack. Well, it's not frozen right now, but it was frozen from the freezer case at Trader Joe's, and it's a grass-fed Angus beef that is from New Zealand. And I love to just buy 1 or 2 of these and keep them in the freezer for times like this. I don't eat a lot of beef, but I do really like to support grass-fed and grass-finished farming, and I think that the meat tastes better, and certainly it appears that it's better for us. So I'm going to put this ground beef in here with all of the green herbs, the green onions, the zucchini, and the rice. I should say, as a caveat to what I was talking about before with the grass-fed beef, naturally, it's best to buy your grass-fed beef, if you can at all, from local farmers in your area, or at least have it come from a local CSA. Walden Farms is one in our area that will deliver grass-fed beef and wild-caught fish. But better than that is to support your farmers. But sometimes you can't do that, and so it's good to know that there is this option at a place like Trader Joe's, and I'm sure Whole Foods and any other grocery store would have it too. So, okay, talking away here, this is the way my mix looks. So I'm going to form these into golf size or walnut size balls, depending on whatever size you like. I might make mine a little smaller because I want them to cook quicker. You brush them with some olive oil, and then you pop them into a 400-degree oven for 10 to 12 minutes. Doesn't that sound great? Okay, here are my meatballs, and I have a little olive oil, and I'm just gonna brush it all over these guys. With the ground beef, maybe I wouldn't have to do this ordinarily. Turkey is definitely more lean than ground beef, but because it's grass-fed beef tends to be more lean as well. So I am gonna go ahead and just douse them with a little olive oil. So the meatballs are in the oven. I didn't put the timer on. Okay, I'm gonna look at the time. So I'm gonna check them in 10 minutes. I'll check them with a thermometer. But really, how quick was that? Just grating some zucchini, chopping up some green herbs and the green onions, throwing it in with some meat or tofu, throwing in some rice, rolling them up into balls, sort of. Mine were not so very ball-like. And now they're in the oven. So this is a really quick dinner. And because I always like to do colors, I like to have a colorful dinner, I happen to have a radicchio, which is one of my favorite bitter vegetables. And so I think I'm just gonna slice it up, and I will saute it with a little olive oil, salt and pepper. Normally I might put some red onion in it, but because we have the green onions and the meatballs, maybe that might be overdoing it. So I think I'll just do it with the olive oil, salt and pepper, and maybe drizzle it with some balsamic vinegar or some aged balsamic vinegar when it's done. So I did a quick chop of my jalapeno, which I did not show you, and some garlic, which you can see the garlic skin here left, and some lime juice. The recipe called for lemon, either one, it works. The recipe called for cilantro. I used cilantro in the meatballs. I used basil in the green sauce. I didn't have as much basil as they called for, so my green sauce is more of a celadon sauce, but it is delicious. So, and that's with yogurt, I should say. If you were doing this with tofu and trying to keep it vegan, then perhaps you could use cashews or a vegan yogurt. 10 to 12 minutes, my meatballs are done. No messy frying in a skillet, easy baking, easy cleanup with the parchment paper, and I think they look great. If you wanted them a little bit browner and crispier, certainly you could run them under the broiler. I don't think that would hurt them in the least if you keep your eye on them. So this is what we're going to have. We're going to have our meatballs with some basmati rice and our green sort of celadon colored sauce, some radicchio. I had an extra zucchini. I shredded that up, so I'm going to have a little zucchini on the side with the zucchini and the meatballs. Why not? So that's dinner done. And if I hadn't stopped and stopped the camera and gone back and forth, I would say this would probably be done in about 20 minutes. That's pretty good. That's sort of fast food. Once again, Shereen Jones from Healthy Now. This tray is getting heavy. And it's turkey meatballs with zucchini, except that I used grass-fed ground beef.